with another episode of SLP's Wine and Cheese. I'm Deb.
And I'm Maria.
And here's our podcast.
Welcome for the Realistic SLP.
Yeah, that's who we are.
Yep, where we drink wine and eat cheese and discuss all things SLP. So, what are we drinking, you might ask? Well, I'm super stoked for this.
Stoked.
So, yes, I never use that word ever, literally. It's my
Starting
first
now.
time, probably. But I'm excited for it because I feel like I needed this word to equate
It's like
it
in a
with the
California word, right?
wine. It is. Well, this wine is from California.
Look at that.
Yes, and it's bread and butter wines. So we're having a Chardonnay, which we have chilled because we've learned that the hard way. It's from Novato, California, and it has notes of vanilla bean and almond husk. And you might ask, like, what is that? So it's just a wine that's not too sweet, but there is a hint of fruit in it. But we paired this with, you might laugh at this at first glance, but
I did.
Yes, I did too. But I tried it and it was good. So I was like, why not? So we have some dried mango and we paired it with mascarpone cheese, which is a spreadable Italian cheese. And it was good because when you eat the mango with the cheese and then drink the wine, I feel like the mango, the fruitiness of the mango brings out the fruitiness of the wine. Where the cheese doesn't really have that much of a taste, it's just more smooth. So I
Yeah,
feel
it's
like
a very smooth cheese.
yeah, so the smoothness was a good texture where the mango had that nice sweetness, which brought out the sweetness in the wine. So I feel like I've learned a valuable lesson here.
Oh, what was that?
Yeah, so when you have wine, you like a Chardonnay, which doesn't have such a strong taste, if you pair it with something, it can like make the wine taste more sweet or like tone it down or go even with the wine.
Right.
So like this is good for dessert, like after dinner or something, or it's like a girls' night and you're like, oh, we have Chardonnay. So like pair it with fruit if you want something sweet.
Kind of like how certain sounds influence other sounds,
Oh,
depending upon the
wow.
position of the word.
I don't know if we're geniuses or just pure nerds.
Right.
Right.
But that's
Which
kinda
one
what
would
it
you say?
does.
You're not answering that question.
Oh, both.
Yeah.
Genius nerds.
Genius nerds.
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting.
What's the difference between a genius and a nerd?
Wow. Well, I think like a genius is like understated. Like they're not like so in your face. Where
Uh-huh.
nerds are like very apparent nerdy.
Because they don't have the social etiquette to wait to be invited to give advice.
You might be foreshadowing there.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that Bread and Butter Wines, you could find them on Instagram, and they have a very nice page. And you could also check out their wines at breadandbutterwines.com. And yes, they are very supportive of our wine podcast. So
Thank you, Bread and Butter Wines.
Yes,
I really like this wine.
It's
I
good.
think it's great. I definitely vote drink it.
Definitely drink the
Yeah.
bread and butter wine.
But you know what I would think? Bread and butter pickles are the worst
What?
things ever invented. I don't
What?
like those.
is that related to the wine? Or
No,
do you-
but they're just bread and butter pickles. So I remembered that often I want to eat a pickle and then I taste it and find out it's actually a bread and butter pickle and then my whole day is ruined.
yeah, it sounds kind of gross.
It isn't good,
Yeah.
but some people, they really love them. But this bread and butter wine, very good.
Yes. It's very classy.
Yes.
By the way, Mark and Paul are both single.
Oh, wonderful. Thanks
yeah.
for checking on that. I'm trying to get my sister hooked up with a guy. If you guys, anyone out there knows a man who's a minimum of 35 years old, not a creature, has a job, and
lives in New York or Bronx area.
no,
Hoboken
not
is
the
okay.
Bronx. I said Queens and the Bronx might be too far, but you
We
know,
can't judge people where they live. He
But
might be
maybe-
in between jobs or something.
sometimes relationships don't last because of the distance that's required
maybe
to
they
travel.
weren't meant to be to begin with, because there's some relationships that are like across countries, let alone boroughs.
Okay, so I will be open to the man that fulfills the inclusion criteria of
For
being
your sister.
35 with a job. Well, listen, you
Yes.
cannot deny that other people's choices in their lives affect your life.
Especially when they're family.
Yes. So while
knock
it
and
might
knees.
seem like I am being a little too choosy, I need to choose what's best for me so that she doesn't torment me for the rest of our existence.
Good point. I'm not even going to argue with that.
Yeah.
But I will give you some good news that I got 2 potential bachelors for her.
Thank you.
So-
and I like those names too. Those
Yeah.
were both Beatles. What was it? There was a Mark, not him. Still, he's an apostle.
Mark and Paul. I will show you their pictures later. So anyway, drink this wine, absolutely, and this wine is excellent. So the next topic I would like to get into is the essential list of wine etiquette tips to master. So since we want to talk about socializing and social stories today, I've decided that, socializing with wine is
A pretty frequent occurrence.
I was going to say prevalent, yes. Over the age of 21 only.
Yeah, because
Yes.
under 21, you're drinking like Jolly Rancher shots.
Oh, you're not drinking at all. Well, you shouldn't be. That's what I'm going to say.
Keystone Light,
That's-
Natty Light.
I'm going to
Bud
disagree
Heavy.
and say you should be drinking water. Okay? That's
Right.
what I say. Anyway, so
Black House.
Right, yeah, you could just. That's all Deb's voice. Notice the
I'm
difference
not
in
saying
voices.
to do it. I'm just saying that's what's happening.
You might be. You might be
Mm-hmm.
saying that. Anyway, so 9 etiquette habits to know. Ready? Number 1.
Mm-hmm.
Hold your glass by the stem or the base.
Okay, hold it by the
Okay,
base.
the base.
It's all about that base. The base.
Right. Smell your wine. Sniff it, taste it, and think about it. And that, I think, is big. When you're ordering wine or drinking it, try to swirl it around and think about it. So,
All right, I'm
Deb, you
thinking
don't do
about it.
this.
I don't.
No.
How do you know I don't think about the wine?
Because I see you drink wine every week, girl.
And I'm thinking all of
For
the
almost a
wine
year now.
thoughts. I'm thinking
All the
whiny
wine
thoughts.
Whiny thoughts. Number 3. Try to drink from the same position on your wine glass to reduce unsightly mouth marks.
Oh. I think I usually do that because usually my lipstick is a placeholder
Right,
and an identifier as to which cup is mine.
Yes, mine too.
Mm-hmm.
You can always just go with the one that has the one that needs the most refill.
That too.
That could be your cup too.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Yeah. So I'm a drunk.
Not kidding. No. You're over the age of 21. So anyway, when opening a bottle of wine, try to do it quietly, like a ninja.
I
did
could
not
do
do
that.
this. I had to ask Mike to help me.
Oh,
Yes.
did he help?
He did.
Good.
He did. When clinking, clink glasses bell to bell. It reduces breakage. And look your clinking buddy in the eye.
Bell to bell. Eye
Yes.
contact.
The eye contact's important.
Did it? Oh,
Yep. I know Vanita knows about that.
Mm-hmm.
That was a fun time, by the way.
Yeah, Vanita from Speechy Side Up. We had a lovely dinner together. We went to Italy thinking we were going to have pasta. We were mistaken.
Well, I still had pasta.
I didn't.
Right. Yeah. Well, whose fault was that?
Well, they only had, we're supposed to be on wine etiquette, but like just for
Right.
1 second, they only
Right.
had creamy sauce pasta there.
Right.
And I don't like that. I want
Red?
marinara.
Oh,
red
right.
sauce.
Yeah. Okay. And then the other one, last one, is pouring wine. Hold the bottle towards the base, which I don't. Which I
Mhm.
guess they mean just hold it more towards the bottom. which
Yeah.
I guess makes
I worked in
sense.
a lot of restaurants. Then you hold it from the bottom of it,
Yeah.
not the neck of it.
Right. I actually lied. There's more. Fill your glass less than halfway to give your wine room to breathe. I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to repeat that. Less than halfway.
Oh my goodness. What are you implying?
It's nothing.
Something.
I'm just laughing and you're just being so personal. Okay. And then try to keep your portion of drinking equivalent to the other people around you.
I
Right.
hang out with people who drink fast,
Yeah,
so
well, look
I don't want to do that. I want to drink slower.
All right. Yeah, so you need some new friends, I guess.
I
I'm just
think
kidding.
so.
And then the other one is offer wine to others before pouring seconds for yourself. Notice the word is seconds, not thirds. Just kidding.
Right, yeah.
Or fourths. Yeah. So that's the wine etiquette. And a big point that this article said that I really liked was, what is etiquette? So on the surface, it seems unnecessary, but it is a powerful tool. And I thought that was important because when I think of etiquette, I think of that movie, right? Princess Diaries. Is that it? With
Yeah.
Anne Hathaway, and she had to learn the
And I
proper-
think of My Fair Lady
Yes.
because I just have better taste in movies.
Right. Yeah, I'm not even going to argue that. I'm not even going to argue that because I haven't even seen that movie. I was embarrassed to say it, but, being honest is important to me. It's one of my morals. So I haven't even seen that movie.
We're going to have a movie night, I think.
know.
Yeah.
We need one.
But it would be hard to watch all the movies in one night. Maybe we should have a
Oh.
movie trailer night.
No, we
Or
just
maybe
need to
we, for
watch things.
bonus content on the Patreon, we should review a movie weekly.
That's actually very good.
Like we watch a movie and then we talk about it. Yeah.
Review it. Okay.
Um,
All right. Add that to the list.
So going into what
Yes.
Maria was saying, she said that like etiquette doesn't seem important, but it's actually a very powerful tool.
on the surface seems unnecessary.
Right. Yeah. So I think from my perspective, etiquette is just like maintaining control. So instead of acting on your impulses or on your emotions, you're making intellectual choices about your behavior.
Yes.
And this like kind of slows you down, increases your mindfulness, and then makes you a
Right.
more pleasant guest.
Because you're not
or-
erratic or impulsive or maybe interrupting people and engaging in socially inappropriate behaviors.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Thank you.
So I, in inspiration for this episode, looked into a couple things, and I found Goleman's social intelligence theory, which I thought was pretty
Oh,
interesting.
Yes.
And social intelligence is made up of social awareness, and that's like empathy, attunement, empathetic accuracy, and social cognition. So like that's just like your awareness, like being aware
Right.
to pick up on these things.
yes.
And then there's like the social facility, including synchrony, just like making sure that you're drinking at the same pace as someone else, self-presentation, influence, and concern. So these
Right.
are like your actual actions is how I
right.
took it. So
I
just
have a
things
question of what attunement is.
being attuned.
Okay.
Yeah.
like attuned to like other people's emotions and their behaviors and like
Right.
what's going on. Like if someone's like crying in the corner, you're not gonna like make a joke, maybe.
Well,
Not
maybe
yet.
exactly what you would do is make
Right.
a joke.
Or I mean that was a bad example, but I got what you mean. Like reading the vibes of the room.
Right, having
reading
an
people.
actual conversation and like bouncing off of another person's nonverbal language and emotions and stuff, as
Yes.
opposed to just speaking out of nervousness or filling a void of silence or something along the lines of that. So it's funny that like social skills are most often associated with individuals on the autism spectrum.
Yes.
However, typically developing people, they need reminders all the time of
Yes. Of
social skills and
etiquette or
etiquette.
social skills.
So I found
Yeah.
a list of like 50 things that a
Right.
person can do in order to improve their social etiquette, and I starred a couple that I thought were the most interesting or necessary. So
Right. You wrote a lot of stuff.
I do, because you know what? This is how I think. I like to think on paper and I write things.
I do too. I get it, but
And
I feel like you wrote
it
so much
sticks
stuff.
to my brain.
All right.
This
so
is
I'm
how I know what I will say.
Okay.
Yeah.
I
feel
feel
like it
bad
in-
you wrote all those things.
Well, it was my choice.
was it?
It was.
Okay.
It was my choice.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, let's
so
get into them then.
the first one is say please and thank you. Very easy thing to do that you can work into your ordinary life all the time. Always saying please and thank you.
Thanks
so
for having me over today.
you're welcome. Please come again.
Sure.
The number 2 is smile.
Good.
Yes, so she's smiling. That's good.
Right.
In Hamilton, there's like this line that's like talk less, smile more.
Mm.
And I think we should all do that. And I try to tell myself to do that. I often talk too much, I feel like. So I want to slow down my verbal impulsivity, and I want to just sit there and smile. That's my goal. It's hard though, especially after I've had some wine.
Yeah.
Number
I get it.
3, hold the door. Another
Right.
easy thing that everyone can do. These are also things that like individuals who might have a different predisposition, they might not be socially aware to hold a door open. So
I
while
always work on that with my kids.
right, it's a great
It's like
thing.
hold it,
to
up,
remind.
up, come back, do it again.
Right.
Do it again.
But it's easy to show somebody that on a daily basis. You're always walking through the hallways. There's several
Right.
doors, so it's an easy teaching strategy to help that individual assimilate into our cultural,
Yeah, environment.
society. give people a pass. You don't know what they're going through. So, like, if somebody is snotty to you at a store, instead of getting worked up about it, just, give them a pass. And I think that's great advice because, I mean, I don't really care how anyone acts towards me, but I do have some friends that are like, do you believe that person? What kind of customer service was that? And I'm like, I couldn't. Do I have coffee? Yes. Done.
There was this comedian that you might know. He's from Staten Island, Alessandro, whatever.
No,
and
I
he
don't know
talked
him.
about that. His like, oh, my girlfriend was complaining like, oh, that girl at Dunkin' was so mean to me. He's like, of course she was mean to you. You're the reason why she's at work. Like, what do you think? She wants to be there making your coffee? He's like, yeah. So
Right. And then
get it.
maybe her order was like, can I have a medium? Or can I have a small, but actually put it in a medium cup because, like, I don't like the lid on the small. And then when you put the milk in it, can you put milk in it so that it looks like my skin color? Just, like, match that. Not too light, not too dark. Okay, good. Oh, that's too much. Do it again.
right. Yeah, that's possible.
There's probably people who are so annoying about ordering coffee.
I mean, I do specify the color of the coffee only to communicate my point because, too much milk or too much half and half will just ruin the coffee.
Really? I'm happy with whatever you hand me.
Okay, well,
I'm like, put milk in it. Oh, you didn't? Okay, have a good day.
Aw,
That's
you're nice.
good. I don't care.
I'm just picky with coffee.
Because I just have this perspective that the universe will remain the same regardless of how my coffee turns out. And I will drink it if I so choose to. And often, I mean, like, who even cares?
Me a little. I
Really?
like my coffee a certain way.
I just
I
like
so
it
wrong?
in
It's
my
just-
hand and then in my mouth.
It's just the little things in life sometimes that make a big difference, and I feel like coffee is one of them.
Well, I'm glad that I can hear that perspective of yours because it's not something that I personally can relate to.
Okay.
But I'm glad you're exposing me to more pickiness.
Yes. That's why I have the pink microphone.
Right, because you're a picky princess.
Exactly. Just going to smile as you go to the next one.
The next one.
I'm smiling.
So you can look at these if there's any that you like.
I like all of them.
But
Thank you for doing them.
You're welcome. I think sometimes it's hard for people to remember other people's names,
Yeah.
especially when you meet someone new. You get like a little bit nervous
Right.
in that second. But if you use the name right away, they
That's a
say,
tip.
"Hi, I'm Deborah," and you say, "Hi,
Hey,
Deborah."
So nice to meet you, Deborah. I love your name, Deborah.
Exactly. Yeah. So there you go. You got it. And then they're gonna be like,
overkill.
but still, it'll get drilled into
Yeah,
your head, and you won't
Definitely.
forget it.
That person be like, that girl is weird. Just repeated my name
Maybe.
3 times.
Maybe. So maybe this is not all good
But
advice.
No. It depends on how you use it too.
Yeah.
Remembering people's names, but just don't be weird about it.
Uh-huh.
Right?
That
I
was
liked-
the last one I
Yeah.
started on that
Okay,
page.
but I do like the cough or sneeze into your elbow.
Mhm.
Handwrite thank you notes. That's a classic. Phone away during meals. I try to do that, but not always. But yes. Number
No.
12, I'm currently always working on.
Be on time.
Yeah.
No SLP is on time.
Really?
No,
You
because
think so?
every time I write anything about being late, everybody writes to me on my Instagram being like, "Me too." So,
Okay, that makes
Yeah.
me feel better.
number 14, I like always RSVP.
Yes,
Even if you
that's-
can't go, you should definitely RSVP and say that you're unable to make it, and then don't RSVP at the last minute.
Yes, I've had a lot of friends who've gotten married, and they're like, "I don't care if you come or not, just RSVP."
Right,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah.
not to me. They weren't talking to me, but yeah. Number 15, ask before posting. I don't do that all the time.
Yeah, I don't. It's not something I'm always conscious of, but
Mhm.
definitely I can understand how maybe somebody might not want to be posted. So,
Mm.
moving forward, I will be more aware of that.
But what if you really like that photo? And they're like, "No, my elbow doesn't look." And you're like, "Come on, nobody's
well, I
looking
guess
at
you
your
can
elbow."
crop them out.
Yeah, but it's not the same.
I guess, but I think that just
s-
out of respect for somebody else's face, just
Right, yeah. But when you
ask them
say that
first.
and you roll your eyes, it's kind of like, I don't really want to do this asking for permission,
Right.
but I'll do it anyway. I'm not
Right.
about that life. I just want to
Um,
do what I want to do on my personal page.
yeah. But maybe somebody doesn't want their face out there, or I don't know.
I get it. Yeah.
Who
Good
knows?
point.
Here comes Michael.
Well, someone's coming in, and his name is
Oh.
Just keep this in here because it's.
Well,
really
now
close
you
to the
must
router.
speak to the
We're
listeners.
actually talking about etiquette. And
Oh.
is there one out here that says not interrupting? I'm sure that.
Well, Mike, what do you feel about asking before posting? Do you think that you should ask someone before you post a picture of them?
Yeah, be the tiebreaker here.
I think it's fine to put. I mean, if they let you take it and it's been on social media before.
Okay. What about keep noise down at work? Do you think that's important?
Yeah, that's important.
I think that's important. I think I started this because I don't think necessarily just at work, but I have an issue with speaking too loudly, and I want to like work on that and not always speak so loudly.
Really?
What can me and Mike say to you?
Nothing, because you'll piss me off by bringing it up.
Maybe we can have a code word.
Yeah, we could like wink or something.
She won't pick up on that. It needs to be maybe like pointing to our ears like they're hurting.
We'll just go like this.
Like
No.
Put both fingers in our ears.
No, see, that won't work.
She might speak louder so we could
I
hear her.
will.
She talks too loud and sometimes too much. Like she'll just, you know.
She did just
Kinda.
say that before you got here.
Yeah, like, it's like it turns into like the Deb monologue.
Well, sometimes I have
It's
a
like the
lot to
vagina
share.
That was our Mike's words, not ours.
Yeah.
All right, shake hands firmly. I like to do this, especially on a job interview.
Right,
But
yeah.
have you ever heard the thing where you put like the more dominant person puts their hand facing up, like facing the back of their hand?
Yeah, I
facing
hear
up?
that's like a power move.
Yes, and then the bottom facing it downwards is like, all right, go ahead, you can, you're in charge here. I just face it the regular
yeah, I
way.
face it this way,
Right.
and I shake hands like that.
Me too.
And yeah, I don't know.
I shook hands with my doctor, and I felt like he felt weird, and I was like, why are you making this weird? I just didn't want to hug him, but I was just like,
Right.
thanks for all those tips. You
I
know?
mean, departures are an awkward time for
Right.
anyone.
Yeah.
It's like, what do you do? I have our friend Nick. He always reaches his hand out for a handshake, and I'm like, can I just hug you instead? Because, like, this is
Well-
weird. Because it's always just like, yeah, okay, nice. Like, it's not like a nice to meet you. It's like, I've seen you a lot of times.
Exactly.
You were saying bye now.
Yeah. At that point, would you just high five? If you,
No,
'cause
I
some
said
people are
we will
uncomfortable
do
with
a
hugs.
hug. I
Okay,
said that,
you
and
fi-
then that's what I just took charge.
That's
Because
kind of weird, also, though.
well,
but
he,
just-
he went for it.
Okay.
So
All right.
I don't know. Maybe he was trying to be a feminist and just thinking that
Oh.
maybe I didn't want to get hugged. You know, he
Yeah.
shook my boyfriend's hand and he wanted to shake my hands, and I was like, no, you can hug me.
Oh, right.
Um,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know that. Now that I think about it, like some cultures, the man shouldn't be hugging the woman like that.
I mean,
He's the Greek one, though, right?
Nick?
Nick.
No, that's
No.
Stavros.
Oh, right. Yes.
But yeah,
'Cause
same
we're-
group of
'cause
people.
Greek. We're all about the hugs. We're like, hey, I just met you. Give me a hug. You know?
Right. Hey,
So,
I just met
you.
you.
And this is crazy.
But hug me,
Baby.
maybe.
Shake hands firmly, and I do like the number 22 is wash hands. So I'm hoping those
Right.
two can go hand in
Hands
hand.
in hands. Very
no
good.
pun
Yeah.
intended there.
I liked dress for the occasion.
Okay.
Yeah.
But what if you don't know the occasion? Someone's
Then
like,
just look good.
just look good.
Yeah.
What are some go-to look good outfits?
Black pants and a white
I knew
shirt.
you were gonna say black. Something with black.
Yeah.
Can't
Black.
go wrong with the little black dress, right?
Yeah, little black dress.
Thanks for these raspberries.
I
by
don't
the
know,
way.
but more so like I don't love it when people are like, "What are you wearing? What are you wearing?" And I'm like, "I don't know, something."
I know. Is it
So-
people who like text you like a week before? You're
Or
like, I'm
the
just
day
trying to
of.
live right now.
Right, that too.
It's like you don't have session notes clearly.
Exactly.
You have too much time on your hands.
But if I'm going anywhere, I'm wearing a black dress, or if it's like less crazy than that, I'm wearing like a nice pants and a heel and some sort of shirt.
right,
That's it.
Yes, right.
I'm
Okay, I get
always
it.
business cash.
business cash is good.
Yeah.
So yeah, you have asked permission to use person's first name. That's a nice one.
Yeah.
That's good for like a parent. I feel like. Or a
I've always
client, an
felt
older
weird
client.
calling anyone Mr. and Mrs. I would just avoid saying their name at all.
Hey, you.
Yeah. Or I would just be like, "Oh, it's so great to see you.
You.
When am I going to see you guys again?"
You
Yeah.
Funny you.
Yeah, you too. You just crack me up. Yeah, I don't know why. Clean up after yourself. That's an
Yes.
important one.
I'm big with that.
Wait a day before reacting to a snarky email or text. I thought that was great. That's great etiquette. Let's do that moving forward.
I like that. That goes a lot with the impulse control, I think.
Yeah.
Because texting convos can get heated, and if you just sometimes want to just let things go,
Yeah.
you know, maybe someone's like, hey, you didn't RSVP to my party. And you're like, yes, I did.
Right.
And then you could just ignore that text, and then hopefully they get your RSVP in the mail. And you're like, good thing I never answered.
Right.
I'm
Yeah.
just trying to combine all these things.
That's
that
true.
you did.
But these are all things like, let's say you're working with an individual in the high school setting too, you know, and you want to work on all of these social skills that people are going to expect them to perform as when they enter the adult world. So this is like, although it's things that we're talking about and discussing and reminding ourselves of, these are great targets because social goals in speech therapy are usually very ambiguous.
yes.
I feel
Well, they
like
shouldn't be, though.
they
but-
shouldn't be, but when I read IEPs, they
Right.
are.
Sometimes they are. We don't know how those goals got on there, but they did.
They did. And so if you're ever like scrambling for ideas, you're like, oh, I know this person is like not typical socially, and like, I don't want to use the word awkward, but I can't think of something. These are some
Inappropriate,
things that
social
you.
inept.
But then
social
social
difficulty.
inappropriateness, often people connect that with like bad behavior, you know? And
Right.
being inappropriate just means like you're not doing the appropriate thing
For your age.
or
For your
situation.
Your peers.
yeah. So
Right.
these are all good targets for an individual like in that setting.
Right. This is one I like, the pushing the chair. I know you didn't start, but you know
Right.
when you grab your kids and if you're doing your pull-out sessions,
Easy thing to
I
work
ask them
on
to be like,
every
push in your chair, and I think it's important. And it's
Yeah.
also safety hazards. No one trips on that chair.
right.
Safety
Every
first.
session
I
that can
always
get
say that.
worked on though. That's
Yeah.
something that
Embed that into the session. I feel like these
Mhm.
are all things we do, but we just don't realize we're doing them. But it's good
Right.
to build our confidence too as SLPs. Like we're working on these things, like we're doing stuff,
right.
even when we're not quote unquote doing something.
But if you
We're
feel
still
like
doing
you're not
something.
doing things, you can make a list like this so that you
Right.
always feel accomplished. Like,
Yeah.
did
This-
I have the individual hold the door? Did I have them push in their chair? Did I have them say please and thank you?
Did
Did
I-
I have them greet everyone?
Say
So-
goodbye to their kids in class. I make my
Right.
kids, especially the kids on the spectrum, like, all right, we're leaving, say bye. I'm not going to sit there and have them say goodbye to every single
Right,
kid.
because
but
that'd
just
be disruptive.
yeah, that would just be like kind of a waste of time also.
Right.
Just, one big little wave and bye, and like make some eye contact with at least one kid in there, and then we're done. Hold the
Right.
door for me.
Exactly.
I'm walking here.
So then you already didn't even get to the session yet, technically, and you already feel accomplished
Yeah, I
because
do.
you did that.
Keep it going,
Yeah.
Right.
So then
What's next?
next,
I like
ask
this one.
before bringing a guest. I just
Yeah.
broke this one. I brought
Right.
you to a birthday party without
Oh,
asking,
yes.
but no
And
consequences.
then I brought a guest as well.
Exactly. So we were just totally. What's the opposite? Was that rude? What's the opposite? Is it poor etiquette? I don't know.
I feel like it was.
Okay.
I'm pretty sure your friend may have been pissed off. And I was like, is your friend pissed off? And you're like, maybe. I was
Yeah.
like, should I leave? And you're like, no. And I
No,
was like,
because I mean, we were there already.
we had so much fun, though.
Everyone had fun. It was fine.
But she got okay after, right?
I think so. Which she hasn't brought it to my attention.
Would she, though, if she was mad, or she was one of those who, like...
Yeah, she's pretty forward.
Okay, I could actually just text her. And be like,
No, I think
were
it's
you mad that one time on your birthday? Like,
I
a
mean,
month
don't
ago?
worry about it. Be a good dinner guest. Inform the host before of any food preferences or allergies, and don't make your food preferences or allergies somebody else's dilemma. So if you are
Right.
going to have dinner somewhere, then make sure you're like, I don't eat carbs or I am allergic to gluten, so that that person can plan ahead.
Or
But
just bring a dish that you'll eat.
yeah.
Because we have some vegans in my family, and they just always bring their own thing. And my
Mhm.
aunt's for like Thanksgiving, she was like, I don't know how to make what's vegan. I don't know.
Right,
and
yeah.
then my aunt and her
He's like, I'll make you lamb.
yeah, right. It's okay. It's okay. I make lamb. Yeah, exactly. My aunt's like, sorry, we gotta have a turkey. You know, too bad. But no, my aunt and my cousin, they're both vegan, and so she's raising her son to be vegan. They just bring their own stuff, and they're good, and they're chilling.
And
they're
that's a
like,
good guess.
yeah, and they're just like, don't worry about us. You know, we got our own thing.
And lots of people have like food aversions, food
Yes.
allergies. So it would be helpful to teach that person ahead of time to advocate for themselves. Like, I cannot have tree nuts. I cannot
that's
have
good.
shellfish.
That's good.
So you want them to advocate for themselves, not strictly to be a good dinner guest, but also in terms of safety.
safety first. And also, like that could be important to make sure you show a kid how to access that on their device.
Right. Yeah, because
So-
that's important.
Definitely.
Number 31, sit like a royal.
Yeah, I don't know what you mean by that.
I think it means like hold up your own body with your own self and your own muscles. Don't utilize the table to hold you up. Don't use the armchairs to hold you up.
Okay. I'm gonna do that
Elevate
right
your
now.
rib cage out
Okay.
of your gut. Don't sink into yourself. Put your shoulders back.
Okay.
And sit on your
Bottom.
your like
Your gluteus
pelvic bone.
maximus.
No, you're not on the couch. You're sitting like you're riding a horse,
Oh, all right.
like this. Yeah.
That's intense.
And yeah, that's just good posture. So then
Okay.
next,
So let's pause now because we're at the halfway point of our session.
our session,
Yeah, whatever. It's a session.
our podcast. This episode of SLP's Wine and Cheese is brought to you by SpeechTherapyPD.com. It's a 100% SLP-owned website that specializes in practical, engaging, evidence-based video and audio courses. There's more than 600 hours of courses available on demand.
Yes, there are weekly live and interactive courses and pod courses. They offer unlimited plans starting at $89 a year. And now you can get $10 off with the code WINE, WINE. So enter WINE at checkout. Don't forget to follow us at SLP's Wine and Cheese Pod on Instagram. Deborah Brooks, CCC SLP, Maria _Kotz SLP. Changed my name. And,
you did?
I did. It's okay. I wanted to, less of my real name, more of my fake name.
Why?
I got paranoid. Gotta admit that I did. It happens. Happens to the best
Okay.
of us. I feel like that's definitely an SLP thing.
Yeah, one
Slash-
time I got paranoid and
Yeah.
I archived all of my videos.
Right. Yeah. See? So you know what
Yeah,
I mean.
I was also in bouts of paranoia. You're very determined because it took me about an hour.
I call that the silver lining.
Yeah.
Anyway, so yes, don't forget to check out our Instagram and leave us a review on iTunes. Rate, comment, and review us.
Please, we love
Yeah.
seeing those reviews.
Yes.
They just kind of make our whole day better, and we'd like to take the time to read one to you.
Yes, we would. I'm gonna get one too. Well, you pick maybe one or two of your favorites.
I'm just gonna read the
So-
most recent
Oh,
from
okay.
K Bebe 6. Love the podcast, 5 stars. Informational, fun, low key. I feel like I'm friends with Deb and Maria. Thank
Aw,
you
we
so
are
much for
friends,
writing
girl.
that. Thank you. Yes.
Yeah, that's so great. I feel like these are so great when we listen to them. I can't even speak. When we hear them and read them. So, thank you. I like this one too. She said, I like this one from Shan Werb 14. I love listening to this podcast. It's very different from other SLP podcasts in that both Maria and Deb are relaxed. It seems mostly unedited, and it feels a bit like you're listening to your SLP friends' conversation.
That's Speechy Musings.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you, Speechy Musings.
Yes. Awesome.
Yeah, we love you, Shannon.
Yes.
Um,
So, want to get back?
Also, check us out on Patreon, www.patreon.com/SLPs Wine and Cheese. We have a bunch of content there.
I just released some stuff on there. Oh, but by the time this episode airs, we're considering some
We'll see.
things.
Yeah,
I
we
won't
got-
even-
We have new things in the works.
Yep. we'll keep
We've
you
got
posted.
social skills on our brains.
Social skills on the brain.
Yeah, so stay tuned. Check out the Patreon and pledge. Please help support us. If you have enjoyed this podcast, then maybe you'll want to pledge $1 a month just to help support it and keep it going.
Yes. Our
And on that
artistic
note-
abilities.
Yeah. We're going to go back to our etiquette. We have a few more things that I starred. The next
Mm-hmm.
thing is table manners. My grandma used to always say, elbows off the table,
Yes.
Mabel, and she would stab me with her fork.
Ouch.
So I don't put my elbows on the table
Okay. And
when
next
I'm
time
eating.
I see you do it, I'm going to tell you.
I
that.
doubt that you'll ever see it happen because
Oh.
I have learned.
Maybe that was a trick or a test that you just passed.
Number
Cheers to that.
35.
Cheers to your grandma.
Cheers to her. Number 35 is reach out to people who are grieving. I think
Okay.
that's super important.
That
If
is
you
very
ever hear that an individual has experienced a loss, it's so important to just reach out and just give them your condolences and just
Yeah.
saying that I think is super helpful. I always try to. So I think
know.
it's a good piece of advice and a good thing to teach others to do.
I know, and a lot of people are like, oh, I don't know what to say, and you don't have to really say much. You could just be like, hey, just
You
let
know what I say?
What do you say?
I always say, I'm so sorry to hear about your loss. And then I relate it. I'm like, this individual, in my experience, recently passed away. I know there's nothing I can say to make you feel better. And there's nothing that you can do other than to just let yourself feel sad. So, and I think that's the best advice that you can give to anyone.
Right.
Just let yourself feel sad, because that's the only thing that you can do. And there's no sense in fighting it or trying to pretend to be tough. Just
right.
let yourself feel it.
Yes.
And take care of yourself. That's what I tell people. I tell them
Take
to
care
let
of yourself
themselves
is
feel
good.
sad and to take care of
Oh,
themselves.
that's a good one.
Yeah. And then I
Sometimes
send them
yeah.
a edible arrangement.
Oh, that's
Because
good.
who doesn't like that?
Who doesn't like that? That's good.
It's healthy and you could snack on it.
Yeah.
39 is the next one I went to,
Oh,
is
okay.
help someone who is clearly struggling.
Okay.
So if somebody's got like 16 bags and they can't open a door, like hold
Okay.
the door open for them.
Right.
Another very easy thing to teach individuals in your speech therapy session, you can write stories about it, have examples, and demonstrate how, anyone of any level and ability can help another person.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Our students, like we have some like older kids and then some younger ones, and then we had a program, I don't know if we still do, I don't think we do it, but we used to have like breakfast buddies where like our middle schoolers will help the kindergartners go up and get lunch and like hold their tray and just like help them pick what they wanted, like, oh, did you want milk or juice, and like help the little ones say milk or juice or
Right,
something.
yeah.
So it was so cute.
That's a great program.
Yeah, it was. We don't have middle schoolers anymore, so that's like what's stinks about that. But it is what it is. But however, I do want to say this. Sometimes you want to help people, but it can't be at your own expense.
Okay.
Right.
I'm talking more so about
know.
like if someone can't reach
I
something.
know. I'm just getting deep into the things.
Yeah,
Maybe
yeah.
it's
So
the bread and butter one.
What's the example?
I'm getting to
that
the
you-
bread and butter of
Yeah.
this. You know, like from the book that I would like us to talk about in a future episode, The Codependent No More, that book where it talks about essentially when you're trying to help someone so much that your whole life like revolves around controlling them pretty much, so they're not making wrong decisions, but now your whole life is based around them, and that's like not doing a disservice to you and to them.
Right. Does that go into like what type of upbringing predisposes you to
It doesn't always
that?
have to be an upbringing. It just has to do with, I guess a lot of it is like self-love and self-confidence.
Right.
Like you
put
giving
all
up.
of your effort into someone else because you just kind of deny yourself a bit.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So there's so much, we're going to talk about that in a future episode. Sneak peek. That was a sneak peek. So yes. Bring food. I like that. I brought Girl Scout cookies to your house.
I rarely bring food places because I don't have a lot of confidence in my cooking. I
Right.
also like had the bad habit of like I would have roommates for a long time and I wouldn't like offer them food that I was cooking.
Mm-hmm.
But I
Because
just
you didn't want to share it?
no.
Okay.
I mean eat it, but then I just didn't want to critique. I was like, you can have it if you want, but I'm not saying this is great.
Right.
Like I made this. It's got nourishment.
Right.
It will feed me. Like you can have it, but it's not a
Stellar.
meal. It's not like it's not like
Restaurant quality.
No. But recently people have been bringing me food and it's quite nice. So
Oh, I should have brought you food.
well, you did. You brought cheese.
I did,
You
but
put
I
it on
I
my
baked
mango.
some fish. I just didn't want to stank up your apartment.
Well, that was something I didn't mention about bringing stinky leftovers.
Oh, it wasn't leftovers. I just cooked it today. But yeah,
well,
bringing
still,
stinky
it's like
leftovers.
that was a list thing. Don't bring stinky leftovers to work.
Okay.
I mean,
do that though.
yeah, but that's what I feel like. You know what? We got to be healthy. I don't care about your nose.
Fish and eggs are healthy, and those are and broccoli. Those are like the 3 top stinkiest foods. But like
And tuna
protein
fish.
Oh, I don't eat tuna fish. Yuck! I mean, it makes me gag.
Really?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
tuna fish is not really good for you. It has
No.
mercury in it, but I'll take it over like a turkey, like a cold cut sandwich.
Oh my god. Okay. No grooming in public.
Yeah, I
Which,
think this was
alright.
the number one thing I had to teach all of my high schoolers who just wanted to break
Mm.
out a hairbrush in the middle of anything. They loved to do things like that. Yeah, no
Yeah.
grooming in public.
I did that a lot in high
saves,
school too.
yeah, bathroom only.
Okay, good point. Skip controversial or nosy topics at parties.
Yeah.
Yeah, but isn't that what a party is?
I thought about that when I wrote
Uh-huh.
that down. I'm like, but isn't that what everyone wants to talk about?
Right. See?
But at the same time, it's like
Why we get along.
what you say about other people says more about you than it does about them.
That's true.
And I did
true.
find myself for a while often going to like gossipy conversational points because I felt like it would be the most interesting thing I can come up with and it would like get the most people's attention.
Mm-hmm.
But I just don't like the way it feels and I don't
Yeah.
like to be talked about. So I don't want to talk about things like that.
Good for you.
Unless I'm talking about like a like somebody outside of us, like something on the news or something along the lines of that.
Like The Bachelor, how he picked the SLP.
Oh,
Hey. I'm
everybody
proud.
who listens to this and also knows who Jared Freed is, he's the comedian who he live streams he like posts about The Bachelor. He wrote all these fake descriptions and then a lot of people like sent me his post not knowing that
Really?
I know him about how he described Cassie, the speech pathologist.
How does he describe
It was
her?
a joke. He wrote like a fake bio for her and all of the other contestants. So he's a comedian. He was joking. And I told him she was going to win because SLPs are just the most desirable.
Yes.
And look, here we are.
here we are.
She won.
Good for her.
Good for her, yeah.
Does she want to be on our guest on our show? If
I
anyone
don't
knows
know.
her, you worked with her, tell her to listen to this podcast.
She was an
We'd love to have
SLPA in
her.
California, so
Guys.
somebody must know her.
Whoever knows her, I'm counting this. I feel like the side theme of this episode is California.
Right.
With my word
yeah.
stoked with the wine from the grapes from California, and now going back to Cassie.
Exactly.
Just saying.
Greet everyone when you enter the room. I think this is super important. And also, don't feel like sometimes I feel like there's the main person I have to say hi to, but there's someone else closer to me.
Yes.
Take your time. Just make your way around.
Yeah.
Just say hi to everybody and don't skip anyone and prioritize anyone.
Oh, that's weird.
So,
that's
yeah,
weird.
I like to do that. Never show up empty handed.
I like
I
that
show
one.
up a lot of places empty handed, but I think.
You show up with dogs.
I do often show up with dogs.
Yeah,
that is
so that's
accurate.
Not empty-handed.
Mm-hmm.
Just a handful.
Yes, both
So,
of my
yeah,
hands are full.
Exactly.
And often an
See?
arm.
So maybe you're too tough on yourself there.
Yeah.
Be a pleasant house guest. Like, don't bring dogs. No, I'm just kidding.
Everyone
kidding.
is very happy
kidding.
every time I bring the dogs.
I know that.
But yeah, I mean, I can get that. Like, could be a bit obtrusive, but
Maybe allergies.
being a pleasant house guest is kind of like combining all of the things we already said. Like, be aware of their topics, know that you're interesting outside of other people's gossip.
Good.
Be mindful of your volume and don't dominate conversations.
Smile.
Smile. Be
Know-
attuned with
Know
other
the
people.
people's names.
Oh yeah.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
especially if your guest brought guests. Hopefully, they asked if they could bring that guest, and don't just show up like
Like
I
us. Yeah, we did
did.
that.
Don't do what we do.
Yeah.
Don't do
Well,
what
we
we're
want
saying.
we're not trying to tell people to be like us. We're trying to tell people to be better than us.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We're trying to be better than us.
Exactly.
Right?
Isn't
Just
that the goal?
Continuous growth.
There is nothing noble about being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is being superior to your former self.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah, I took that from The Kingsman. It's a movie.
Yeah, I saw that movie actually.
Yeah, he says that.
You didn't think I've seen that movie?
I mean, I'm surprised.
Yeah, I am too.
Anywho, so we talked a lot about social
Social
etiquette,
etiquette.
and these are great places to start when you're thinking about working on social skills. So
Right.
if this is how we are all expected to act as members of society, then we should look at that list and cross-reference it across our clients and their needs.
I think it's important because when we are in grad school and even like as professionals, we're continuously learning what are the typically developing norms, let's say for language, right? Like they just came
Right.
out with the new ones for speech sounds.
I'm predicting where you're going with this,
Yeah.
and I'm loving it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
So it's good to know what's quote unquote typical. I don't like to use that N word.
Right. Yeah.
It's good to
Don't
know.
use the N word.
I won't. Wasn't gonna.
Okay.
So it's good to know what's typically developing and what typically developing peers are doing.
Right.
So you can see where their breakdown is happening, and that's what's going to drive your assessment and then your treatment. So that's what I think this whole portion was about. This was about like what is quote unquote etiquette or what is quote unquote age appropriate. But we
or
talked about
appropriate social.
for yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because like a 4-year-old's not going to be like bring wine to a party. But
No,
a 4-year-old
but
should
you
clean up their
could.
toys.
They should clean up after themselves. But if they were going to a party, you could be like, oh, what do you want to bring?
My
Oh,
juice box.
Sophia wanted to bring this box of candies or something, or juice
Oh,
box,
I
you know?
see.
So, like, you can teach all of these skills very early on.
That's a good point.
And it
That's a good
increases,
point.
like, your daily interaction with young children all the
Yeah.
time, just talking about this. Then they can go home and talk to their parents and be like, you should really say that person's name after you shake their hand.
Right. You're gonna be like, Mom, you didn't make eye contact there.
Exactly. You can dedicate a week of speech therapy just to social etiquette.
Yeah.
And it could be really fun, and it's like
Could
out
be
of
a
your
game.
seats, no
Right.
more worksheets,
Right.
like just breaking everything up.
Like thumbs up or thumbs down or something. I don't
Mhm.
know. I know you don't like the thumbs up or thumbs down.
I mean,
you were a
this-
very emotional
for
child.
this, it's fine.
but okay, are you sure? You're not gonna cry?
I might.
Okay.
I'm not
I will
promising.
stop then. I will stop when I see the tears or the lip quiver. All right. So, what is a social story? So, we wanted to give credit to the pioneer of the word social story,
Carol Gray.
Carol Gray, and
Yeah.
there is specific criteria for a social story to be considered a social story.
And this
So-
criteria has evolved over time.
Yes, it has. And we're here
Yeah.
to be informative about the criteria and give you the data of the criteria. And Deb even printed it.
I sure
So,
did.
She
So-
sure did.
But going back, so a social
Right.
story, it's usually a short, simple story that's used as a social learning tool, and it describes a context, a skill, an achievement, or a concept using illustrations and words. It
Right.
was invented by Carol Gray in the 70s.
Mhm.
And she is the one, so she has this trademarked,
Yes.
copyrighted.
Right.
Okay. And basically, what you want to take into consideration is that a social impairment in autism is on both sides. So it's not the person with autism who's impaired, it's also your inability to understand them.
Uh-huh.
So that impairment is both ways.
Got it.
It's important to understand both people's perspectives and abandon all assumptions. Don't assume anyone knows anything or will do anything.
Yeah.
You want to also protect self-esteem and more
Build.
important, and you want to build self-esteem.
Right. So,
So-
this is not a book to be like, this is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is wrong.
Exactly. You
Right,
want
it's
to
like,
maintain
knock me while I'm down.
safety, yes, and
Yep.
encouragement. So there's 10 criteria that you need to
Mm-hmm.
adhere to in order for it to be a social story. So
Okay.
getting into it, this is the latest version from 2014. Number 1 is the social story goal. Authors follow a defined process to share accurate information using a content format and voice that is descriptive, meaningful, physically, socially, and emotionally safe for the audience. So it's protecting the people that you're like giving this information to. Number 2, it's a 2-step discovery. Authors gather information to improve their understanding of the audience in relation to the situation, skill, or concept, and identify the topic and focus on each social story article. At least 50% of all social stories applaud achievements.
Okay, so half.
Yeah, so you want to applaud anything that's good. But you're always saying reinforce any sort of,
Positive behavior.
yeah.
Positive behavior builds on more positive behavior.
Number 3, 3 parts and a title. A social story article has a title and an introduction that clearly identifies a topic, a body that adds detail, and a conclusion that reinforces and summarizes the information. Rule of threes, all stories, rule of 3.
Yeah.
Number 4 is a format. The social story format is tailored to individuals' abilities, attention span, learning style, and whenever possible, the talents and or the interests of the audience.
Yes. And that could be as simple as like I made a social. Well, my coworker helped me make it. Emily, my work wife,
Mhm.
she knows like the little girl she made the social story for like love the color purple. So like the border was purple, and like
Mhm.
you know they wanted her to I think drink from like a sippy cup, but she loves like Dora, so that sippy cup had Dora on it. You know, so that way it's also motivating for the child to read the story.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Number 5, 5-factor define voice and vocabulary.
Mm-hmm.
A social story article has a patient and supportive voice and vocabulary that is defined by 5 factors. These 5 factors are 1, first or third person perspective, past, present, and or future tense, positive and patient tone, literal accuracy, and accurate meaning.
Right. So like that says like for example, just go with the examples. If I was gonna write you a social story about your loudness, I'd be like, I will speak in a medium or something. Like
Yeah.
I would write
I
in first person.
I can
or Deborah.
speak.
The title would be like Deborah can speak not too loud, or like Deborah can speak at a great rate. You know, so I would keep it
Right.
positive, not like Deborah's not gonna speak loud. That's
It
like
is
too
not
negative.
good to be in a cafeteria and
Right.
speak louder than the voices around you, something like that. So it's like
Or-
everywhere you go, you can adjust your voice,
right.
like
and keep-
empowering the
I-
listener.
Yeah, and keeping it positive too, and also giving like okay, I'm not even gonna.
Mhm.
I'll talk about it later, but
Okay.
about the other person's perspective, like this can hurt my friend's ears. So something like that. Like
Is
not
that
like,
something you would want to put in the story
I
though? Because
think
that's not
so.
encouraging.
well, like what is the consequence of like speaking loud? That's like
Yeah.
part of that. in
Okay.
there. Like, oh, it could hurt other people's ears, or
Mhm.
like other people might not listen to me because I'm too. I don't know, something. Whatever the consequence is. So that's like
Right. Okay.
part of the criteria.
So number 6.
'Cause
Sixth
it's like,
question.
why should I not speak so loud? What do I care? You know? Oh, it's like, oh, I didn't know. I'm like, you know, hurting someone else's ears. You know, and that's like putting it in perspective for the child with autism because they have that difficult theory of mind
Right.
and like that not empathy. That's research has shown they do have empathy. They just don't show it as explicitly as we
Right.
might. So
Mhm.
I don't want to say empathy and just the theory of mind part. So anyway, I felt like that was a tangent, but a good
Okay.
tangent.
Number 6.
Mhm.
6th question guide to story development. A social story answers relevant WH questions that describe context, including place, where, time-related information, when, relevant people, who, important cues, what, basic activities, behaviors, and statements, how, and the reasons or rationale behind
Yeah,
them,
that right
why.
there. That's what I meant. I should have kept my comments.
The
after you
reasons
said that.
or rationales to why.
Yes.
Yeah. But maybe I would say a medium voice is the most pleasant to listen to. So as
Right.
opposed to saying like your voice is too loud and you're hurting people, that sounds
Right.
like negative.
Uh-huh.
Like even to me, it bothers me to hear.
Aw,
So
I'm
I
sorry.
would prefer to hear like, oh, using your chest voice is the most pleasant to hear, and
Yeah.
it's less straining on your vocal cords.
Oh, that's
It's
good.
the best vocal hygiene, so I probably would frame it that way.
Something like that.
Number 7.
I feel like
7.
that was a bad example, but I was just trying to say like consequence.
Okay. 7 is about sentences. A social story is comprised of descriptive sentences as well as optional coaching sentences. Descriptive sentences accurately describe relevant aspects of context, including external and internal factors, while adhering to all applicable social story criteria. So, something that I read about social stories, which is it's way more important to have sentences that are describing over having sentences that are like teaching or
Mhm.
I wrote it down
like
somewhere.
repetitive, maybe.
No,
like
repetitive. I wrote that down, but that's different.
Okay.
It's more so about having. I don't know where I read it.
Okay, it's more so about having what.
Like having describe it instead of telling. You know,
Right,
instead
right.
of saying like don't speak too loud, just describe how to speak.
Right, like a model and teach the appropriate behavior.
Right, describe how to
Got it.
teach rather than stating what you're doing wrong and how you shouldn't do that.
Right, because if they knew how to repair it on their own, they would have.
Right,
kind
so
of
why are you rubbing it in that person's face?
Right, well, the whole point of the social story is to teach them an aspect of social communication in a way that's informative and entertaining
Right,
to
yeah.
them
Like this.
and appropriate for their level of understanding.
Number 8 is a great formula. That's what they wrote. I didn't do that. One formula ensures that every social story describes more than directs. Oh, that's what it was. It describes more than directs.
Right, so like telling them what to do,
Yeah.
support them in what to do.
9 to
get it.
refine. 9 to refine. A story draft is always reviewed and revised if necessary to ensure that all meets defining social story criteria. And
Okay.
number 10 is.
Last but not least,
Do you want to read it?
I don't want to take your thunder. You're
Okay,
one of the
so
founders.
10 guides to implementation. The 10 guides to implementation ensure that the goal that guides story or article development is also evident in its use. They are plan for comprehension, plan story support, plan story review, plan a positive introduction, monitor, organize the stories, mix and match to build concepts, story reruns and sequels to tie past, present, and future. Recycle introduction into applause and stay current on social story research and updates. So basically, it's like once you develop this social story, you need to utilize it multiple times prior to
Yes.
that person's involvement in that activity that you have a social story about. So it doesn't end with the creation and the administration of the social story. You want to make sure that you are constant, like more than one occasion are you reviewing this story and having the participant be well versed in it.
Agreed. I've made plenty of social stories. I like them. They're pretty fun. They're like, oh, you get a little creative. And you could have your student help you too, depending on their level of language and functioning
Mhm.
and age and all that fun stuff. But I always print like 3 copies. I'm like, all right, this is my copy, this is for the classroom, and this is for what's going home. So
Right.
there's, and the parents are involved and like, all right, I'm sending home the social story, read it every night, and the teachers read
Right.
it every morning when they come up from breakfast, and it works. It works with repetition. It's not like, oh yeah, I haven't really had many like negative remarks about it, like, oh yeah, it didn't work. Like I've had at
Well,
least,
that's
you
why
know what,
you
it's
just-
helped a little bit. We're getting there. So I'm like,
Mhm.
it's always like a good foot in the door.
Yeah,
So-
but you also want to be mindful that like your social story is respectful and all of those
that's
things.
why they're working.
Exactly.
Yeah,
That's
thank
why,
you.
because you picked things that are socially relevant and
Right.
have safety first and things along the lines of that are building self-esteem.
Yeah.
And I think it's time for tips and tricks.
Yes, it is. And
Do you want to go first or should I?
I'm
ready.
Oh, you're ready. I wasn't. I was gonna give a tip or trick, but I don't like it, so I'm not gonna give
Oh, so I will give mine while you
Okay.
think about
it.
it.
Great.
Mhm. I have 2. So
wow. Maybe you can just give me yours.
I could,
Right, but
but
you
then
won't.
I have more ideas that I want to stem off of it. So if you
Wow.
were to just see my line, you might not know what I'm talking about.
Right. Okay.
So my tip is if you are making up a story for
Mhm.
a child, whether it be a social story or just a reading comprehension story, then you want to make sure that you have sentences and phrases that have repetition. So brown bear, what do you see? All of these stories like that, they're going to have the same sentence repeating over and over again. And another tip is that each time a new event occurs, all previous events are repeated. So
Nice.
that's like, what's that Santa Claus song? That's like hat on head, suit that's red, beard that's white. Like every time you add on to
Oh,
it and then
okay.
you repeat all of those
gosh.
former things. That's
Those
just,
former things.
it makes
Okay.
for good storytelling.
Uh-huh.
So you have sentences and phrases that repeat, and each time a new event occurs, to repeat events that were already happening.
Right, to
Mhm.
just reiterate the points and keep the flow going.
And it's exciting
That is
because
exciting.
then that means like that's why in comedy it's called a callback. When you
Huh.
tell a joke and then you reference a joke that's 2 jokes ago, you make the audience feel more encouraged and more involved, like they're in on the inside joke because they're like, "Oh, I know why that's extra funny cuz I heard that joke before." So it's like they
Ah.
feel like a part of it. That's why a callback is so effective in stand-up comedy.
Wow.
And that's
Cool.
why kids like it too, because they're like, I remember that. I
Right.
know what you're talking about. And that's all humans want, to know what everyone else is talking about.
That's great. I don't know how I'm going to follow up with that.
Well, that's all I have.
I'll just reiterate that the wine is good. It's a
Yes.
2017
Vintage.
vintage wine. The label is very nice, so maybe my tip or trick is to pick fancy wines. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. That's my
Bring
that's
them into
my-
speech.
That's my second tip. You know,
Work
since
on
if you're gonna have
teething.
if you're gonna have two, I definitely don't condone that. Anyway, so that is not my statement. Definitely not.
Maria's like, just put a little whiskey in their milk bottle.
Yeah, definitely did not also say not that. Let's call this segment "What Did Maria Not Say?" You know, those two things I did not
She
say.
just told me she wants that trick.
She is kidding and using sarcasm as a tool of humor. Anyway, my tip or trick. My first one was pick wines with fancy labels. Okay. 2 is I forgot my tip now. I got distracted.
Oh, I just remembered something,
Man.
a funny trick I plan on playing on you.
Oh, you're gonna tell me?
No,
then it won't be a.
but I
Oh.
will laugh to myself. And,
Oh gosh.
and everyone who's listening will know when I planned the trick, which
Oh.
was this week, which will not be carried out for another month or so.
I'm scared.
It's funny though.
Is it?
I'm excited.
Oh. I don't know what it is, but it's scaring me already. But I'm not. I'm gonna live in the moment, and I'm really struggling with remembering my tip or trick. So I'm gonna make one up. My tip or trick is to keep the social stories less than 10 minutes to require to read it. So it should be less than 10 minutes.
Okay.
Should not be the crazy long story.
Yeah,
10 minutes is a solid amount of time between the title.
10 is
Look,
long.
picture 10 is the top.
I think 5 is ideal. What's your ideal? What's your
7 minutes.
7?
I don't know.
I would think like
I don't know.
3 is good, 5 is ideal, 10 is the limit.
Yeah, I probably agree with that. I have never timed it. I remember my tip or trick.
What is it?
But now I'm giving 3 tips or tricks.
Fine.
Whoa.
You're welcome.
Yes. Well, I was thinking a lot of times you might say something like, oh, I don't have time to make this social story. And you can make social stories with good old construction paper and crayons.
Mm-hmm.
So you could at least start the social story and send that home and, build upon. Then you can make a fancier one on the computer and with their pictures. But really, you could just start it with construction paper and crayons and pen and try to have the student write some stuff. You know, or even like if the behavior is like talking too loud. Let's just stick with this one. Like, then the title, have them write the title or have them write their name at the bottom and like try to have them draw the pictures to make them their own. So
Yeah.
or we could have some fancy social stories coming down the pipeline.
Yeah. So Maria and we are unofficially announcing that we are creating a few of our own social stories. So
Okay,
look out
yeah,
for those.
Look out for those. Okay.
And on that note,
I
we have a quote. On that
Look at-
note, there's a quote.
And it is titled, I'm kidding. The quote is, "We do not see things as they are. We see things as we are."
Mm-hmm.
And that goes with all the things we talked about today. So on that note, have a good night, everyone. Cheers. I'm Maria.
I'm Deb.
And have a good night.
How do you say
Enjoy.
goodbye in Greek?
Adios. Just kidding. Yasu.
I was like, I don't think that's right.
Yasu. Yasu. Don't be scared. You're scared to say.
Oh, Yasu. I
There
didn't
you
know it was
go.
my turn. I was waiting for you to stop.
Stop.
Yasu.
Bye.
Sounds Japanese.
It does.
And now, a word from our sponsor.
Hey ladies, I'm kind of sort of loving and openly admittingly fangirling y'all lovely duo of SLP's Wine and Cheese.
Yes, and we love listening to your podcast, First Bite.
Well, thank you. I'm Michelle Dawson and I specialize in functional but fun treatment for medically fragile kiddos. especially for those that have feeding and swallowing impairments and who use AAC devices as part of their total communication plan. On my podcast, First Bite, we discuss all topics related to early intervention and pediatric speech therapy. We address those worrisome ethics and clinical supervision concerns, as well as jump into private practice ownership and really get into the nooks and crannies of all the things in between by interviewing guest experts in the field. Then, every fourth episode, we bring it back home to my Palmetto State by having evidence-based reviews of case studies or resources with my dear friend and colleague, Aaron Forward, who kind of sort of came up with this whole idea.
First Bite is partnered with Speech Therapy PD, offering evidence-based content in a podcast. Each episode can count as 1 hour ASHA CEU. Find them on iTunes, Spotify, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts.
Absolutely. And thanks for all you do and for spreading joy into the world.
Cheers.